last week, if I remember, I shared a link with you. So some of the things, most of the things I'll be doing today are still coming from that same link. So I've added few links again to today's presentation. And that is where I've had some other things from different source. And then if you remember last week, you started, when we finished what we had that week, I told you would be diving into the next phase of what we had. And then we'll have some interactions, and then took a step further. We took a step further from what we were learning. And so we'll start at some points. And then today I would want us to start from looking at, please, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Can you please see my screen? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So today I would want us to start from date functions. Last week we stopped at lookup functions. We looked at lookup function, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, match, index, and then their likes. And then there are some other functions again I intentionally didn't want to teach you that day. We'll be doing it today, such as sum ifs. I already know you know how to do sum, you know how to do counts, you know how to do average, but I'll be using some of them again today and see how we can use them. Sum if, average if, count if, and then the likes of them. So we'll be starting, but today we'll be starting from date function. We'll be starting from date function today. And when we talk about date functions, we are talking about functions that validates dates based on the day, the month, or the year you inputted. So if you have inputted something into Excel in form of day, months, and year, it can actually generate a date function for you or a date format for you, depending on how you specify them. So in simple ways, you need to specify all the components of a date, and it will create a date out of that function. So if you create some components, we already know that a date function, a date will have a part that is day, depending on how you want to do it, to have months, day, and year. Some people prefer day, months, and year. Some equally say they want year, months, day, depending on how you want to actually specify your dates, it can take it. But if you look at the syntax of what we have here, the date function will take 3 parameters. The first parameter will be the year value. Second one will be the months, and third one will be the day. So when you input these 3 parameters into the date function, then it is going to generate a date for you. And the argument is what it's trying to explain for us here. That's the argument is year, a number to be used as the year. So any number you want to use as a year is what I'm going to put there. If you want to use 2010, 2020, 2022, 2023 as a number for your year, then you have to put it there, 1996, any year. Then the months equally is a number to use as a month. So that's what we're going to put there, probably maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have 12 months. So ranging from 1 to 12, you can put any of those values there, and it's going to use that for months. And for day, you're going to put a day, some of the, of course, you know, except February, the rest of them are between 1 and 30 or 31. So in that range of values, you can actually input any dates, any day, any value, and it's going to pick all those 3 components or 3 parameters and produce what is known as date function for you. So that is a simple term how to create a date. But of course, it's more than this. So when we get to the practical section, we're going to see more about that. Yeah, so let's understand how Excel sees dates, so that when you see dates in Excel, you'll be able to appreciate and understand certain things behind it. So dates in Excel are stored as unique serial numbers. Unique serial numbers. And then with this, it means it starts with January 1st, 1900. January 1st, 1900 being considered day one. So if you're using Excel and then the dates, the year 1st January 1900 is considered day one, is considered one in Excel. Each subsequent day is one day added to day one. For example, January 2, 1900 will be considered as 2. So therefore, January 2, 1900 is stored as serial number 2. So it will be 2. And the following day is stored as 3, being the number of days since that day. So it means Excel started counting 1, 2, 3 from January 1, 1900. That's the day Excel started counting 1. And then that day it started counting 1 is the day it started saving dates as 1. So if you remember when you are using the sales underscore new sales underscore analysis underscore new, you remember that the dates column was actually not formatted as dates. And I told you the reason is because Excel, that is the way it saves its date format. So it started counting 1, 2, 3 till that date. So when they entered that date that day, it changed it to that particular value. All right, so that is how you do it. And then if you look at it, one unique thing you're going to note is that if that column is storing its value as dates, but in a serial number format, then its value must not be more than 5 digits. Its value mustn't be more than 5 digits. So its value will always be 5 digits if it is storing them as serial numbers. But if you're not storing them as serial numbers, it's formatting it as normal dates, then it can be either short or long, however you want to format it. It can take that format. But if it's going to store them as serial numbers, that is in a case where it's going to be counting 1, 2, 3 from January 1, 1900 till the date you specified, then it's going to store it in terms of serial number, and then the value will always be 5 digits. Good. Second thing we're going to note is that Excel only recognizes dates on or after January 1st, 1900. Excel only recognizes dates on or after January 1, 1900. Special workarounds may have to be constructed to handle years between 1 and 1899. So if you want to calculate any dates before January 1, 1900, that is what it's telling us here, that we have to do some special workarounds. We have to perform some special things and then calculations to be able to calculate those dates. But for Excel officially, it starts counting from January 1, 1900. Right. Changing the number formats does not change the value of the number. It only changes the way that value is displayed. So when you change it and you say, okay, I want to format it as date, and it's now maybe 1st March 19, whatever, however you want to display it, either as long or as short value, it doesn't mean that it has changed its value. No, it has not changed the value. The value is still retained in Excel as serial number, just that the way it is displayed is being changed. Please, are you understanding how we deal with dates in Excel? Please, if you don't understand, you let me know in the comment in the chat section, and then we'll be going ahead. Other than that, I'll assume you understand what I mean. Great. Now, to understand that then better, we'll have year, months, day functions. and then some other ones again. So for example, here I have year. If I want to get a year function, I can use year equals to this, month this, day this, end of date, workday, duration dot days. So these are some of the functions. We are not limited to this. There are so many of them. The link I gave you last week for Excel formulas, if you go there to learn about dates, you're going to see that there are so many ways of working around dates, so many of them. Yes. So, but today we'll be learning some of them, and then we'll be appreciating how we work with them. Great. So let's just go and do some small practice with these Excel dates and see how we work with them. Great. So I'll be sharing my Excel file again. And then hopefully from there, we'll be going further. I would like to open new Excel file. I want to use a old one. Great. Please, can you see my Excel file, the blank new Excel file? The blank new Excel file. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, I have to share that. I have to share that. That's okay. Let me share it quickly. Great. So now can you see it, blank Excel file?
Yes.
Great. Now, of course, like we are saying, if we have some values in some places, I want to demonstrate from there before we go further to other places. But meanwhile, the dates functions, if you want to work with that, you go to formulas. When you come to formulas, you see function library. There is a tab there called dates and time. If you open it, you're going to see different dates functions you can work with, a whole lot of them here. Depending on what you have in mind to do, you have a whole lot of date functions or formulas you can work with as long as Excel is concerned. We may not be able to use all of them, but we're going to use some of them and see how we work with them. Great. We'll work with them here, and then we'll probably use some of them in Power Query and see how we probably work with them over there. Great. So let's say I'm entering some value. Let me say here, I want it to be year. And then the next one, I want it to be months. And then next, I want it to be day. Let me increase my great. Please, can you see my screen? Is my screen visible for you to see?
Yes.
All right. So I'm entering some value here, 2010. I'm entering another one here, 2013. I'm entering here, 2020. Then maybe for months, I'm entering 5. I'm entering 11. I'm entering 10. Then for this, I'm entering 25, and I'm entering 16, and then I'm entering, let's say, 28. Great. So now to use the dates function, just the dates, maybe here I want here to be called dates. I'll just come here and type equal sign and then type my dates. Of course, when I start typing my dates, I have options over there telling me that I can use any of these date functions if I choose to. I can complete my typing by adding my T, my E, or I can use my tab key on the keyboard. So most times I prefer using the tab key on my keyboard. When you use the tab key on your keyboard, it gives you the options of what are the parameters or the things, the argument that you have to add to that function in order to generate what you need. Yeah. For example, it's telling me that the date function will need something called year. Now, to pick where I want to use as my year, I've already say somewhere in my A2, I've entered some values there in my A column. So I'm going to use that place as the value for my year. I'm not entering 2023 there. I want to use that place. So I can always, last time I told you that it is better to work dynamically instead of statically. Entering the dates, the value here means each time I want to enter another date, I'll still have to repeat the same formula I wouldn't want to be doing that over a time. That's going to be a very big work for me. So I want to do is so that I can write one formula and then I can replicate it, use it over a time whilst I work. So I prefer working around that way. So I've entered the first one, which is the value for my year. Now I add my comma, then pick the next one. You see, automatically it has highlighted or selected the next thing. And then the next value it has selected is the month's value. So it's expecting another value. That's for the month's value. Then in that case, I'll select where I have my value for my months. Once I do that and add my comma, it will highlight another value. It's expecting now a day value. So I'll equally select that again. And once I finish selecting, you see, I can now close my bracket and say enter. And so when I say enter, it generates a date for me using what I have done here. All right. So now after it generates this dates function for me, the next thing that is left for me to do now is to do the same thing down here, but I wouldn't want to do that. That would be going to be a very big work for me, especially when I have this, let's say 200 or 300 or 500 places or 1,000 places to do. Doing that one at a time is going to be a big work for me. So I'll prefer double clicking at the edge of my work or drag, and then it's going to fill it up for me, right? Yeah, so it's going to fill it up for me. So it's either I double click at the tail end of that, but the first one I did, if I double click on it, it should fill up, automatically detects the pattern of what I am doing and use it to fill up the rest of the thing for me. Or I can drag at the tail end of it and then fill up the rest of them. So you see, using what I've done now, if I go back to where I have to check for what I am working with, that is, if I come back to my home tab and go to numbers, and then I check inside the option that I have there where I can select something to work with, you see that the data type that I have there at the moment is dates. But if I go to the where I have A2, if I pick A2 and go back there, you see that what I have there is general. That means it could be text, it could be number, it could be anything. It is not formatting it as dates. It's not seeing that place as dates. The same thing, if I come to B2, B2 is not seeing it as dates. Same thing, C2. C2 is not seeing it as dates. But when I come to E2, you see that E2 is now seeing what I have entered there as dates. The reason is because I have instructed that place that you have to format it as dates using the dates function. Good. Now that is one. Now another thing is this. In a case where I have dates already formatted, and then maybe let's say from these dates, I want to select the year. I want to see which of them is years. I want to see the years I have. All right, so maybe I can do that. Maybe I can say here it will be year. I want year to be year. Maybe I want year to be months. Maybe I want year to be day. Yeah, so maybe for my year, I can say equals year. And then it's expecting a serial number. Maybe let me assume I'm going to put this and see what happens. And then I close my brackets and say, generate it for me. You see, at the moment, it has picked from this dates column I have, my year value is 2010. If that is true, then it means for my months, if I want to select the months from these dates, I can equally see equals months. And then I pick it and I say, pick the months from this value and then close it for me. So it picks it as 5. All right. And then if I say pick the date for me, I say equals day. Sorry, day. And then when I say day and then I say pick this, I want to see the day there. It gets that for me, 25. Now, great. So now if I have this, I'm sure that now I'm having what I need to do. Now check another thing again. Here, my value here is called dates. But when I come to where I've separated the year from my date value, it has returned again to general. It's now seeing it as a normal text or a normal number. So it could be number, it can be text. So please, trying to show you that if you have dates days this way, I want to convert them to dates, it is possible. If you equally have dates already splitted this way, I want to split out, select what you have inside them, it is equally possible. To group maybe all the years, I want to see the years I have in my data set, I want to see the months I have, I want to see the days I have. It's possible you can equally get to see them in that order, depending on what your work is or the work demand is. All right, great. Now, after that, remember too that from here, this date we have formatted, this is short date. I can go back to this place and select another form of date. So if you see, when you come here, you have short dates, I have long dates. So let's select a long day. If I select long day, you see that now I have the day in terms of text or the weekly days. I have Tuesday, I have the months, and I have the day in terms of the value, and then I have the year. So depending on how you want to format your months or your year or your dates, you can actually format them here. Of course, you are not limited to this. There are other options as well can equally use when it comes to formatting our working out with dates. All right, great. So having said this, at this moment, I think we'll have to, please do understand what I've explained here before we go to another thing. If you don't understand, indicate in the chat section, and then I'll come back and explain them further. Other than that, we'll be pulling some more data into our work, and then we'll be continuing from there. So I want to import data again, our Excel file. I want to import that Excel file again so that we use it to see how we can work with dates as well. So at this point, I'm looking for that data, and it's called sales. That's analysis. All right. So trying to connect to my data, and then my data is here. I want to pick my data. I'm picking this. I want to load them or transform, please. I want to transform the data. Remember the last time we've actually worked with this data, and then I'm sure all I'm doing now, you can do them, or you have done them over and over and over again. And so now you are familiar when it comes to cleaning your data and then ensuring that your data is in the right proportion or position. So I'm quickly going to be removing certain things, just like we already know. So I'm getting rid of all the empty rows I have. I've equally promoted the first row to become the header of my work. And then I equally want to trim as well as clean my data so that I'll be sure that everything is the way they should be. I'm selecting multiple columns. You see, the way to select multiple columns, remember, you click on the first column and then hold your shift key and click the last column so that you'll be able to select all the columns you need to add as part of what you want to select or your selection. Now I'm going to clean. First thing I want to do is I want to capitalize each word. That's what I want to do. Now I've done that. Second thing I want to do is I want to trim the data. So I'll remove all necessary things that shouldn't be there. Now the fourth thing or third thing I want to do is to clean it so that I will ensure my data is in the right order. Great. Now I want to split this column. You remember this column? We've always been splitting it each time. Yeah, today again, we're going to split it. So let me split it again. Splits, yeah. And then again, I'm splitting it again. And the first time I split it, I said, get rid of it till you get to where you have non digits. I want to select all digits until I get to where I don't have digits, non-digits. That's why it's splitted until it gets to where I have either space or dash. So once you get to that place, it splits it. And then when I count the second time, I said by non-digits to digits. So it starts counting from where it has non-digits until it gets to where it has a digit, then it splits them. So that is the formula I've used in splitting my data. And then I think I'm okay with that. So I'm removing this one because I don't need it. Of course, remember, we can always rename this. Let me say this. I want it to be called order ID. Sorry, dates, order dates. Great. Yeah. And then I want this one to be called order ID. That's what I want this to be called. Order ID. Great. All right, so I've done that now. I want you see, if I pick these dates, you see that when I count, it's going to be 5 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will be 5 digits. The same thing, if I go to the other dates, shift dates, it will equally be 5 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that shows me that probably these dates was stored as serial numbers, all right, from dates. All right, great. So I should have shown you how to the other one works. Well, maybe we'll come back to that. So I'm formatting this now as dates. Format this as dates. And of course, now it is dates, the way we can see it and then appreciate it. Try to format this again. Sometimes it comes straight, sometimes it doesn't come straight. Yeah, so remove this. So let me change it to general number, whole number first. Yeah. Okay, then I'm trying to format it as dates now. Rolling. Great. So now I have my dates, and then my order date is here, and my ship date is here. Now I want to show you one formula too in Power Query. Now, one good thing about query is that it only gives us the number of columns that we'll have in our data set. It doesn't add extra columns for us. And then the only way we can add extra columns is by using add column. Maybe you want to add some custom columns, then you can generate, but you don't have empty columns. You can't add a column that will be empty in Power Query. Please, all your columns must always contain some values, even if it is null values or empty, but something should always be inside your columns. Yeah, if you exit Power Query and you get to the other part of Excel, you can actually have your empty columns added, as many as you want. But in Power Query, is try to ensure that you have just enough columns that is enough for you to work. Great. So the first thing I want us to do here, working with dates, is I want us to look at the order dates and the shipping dates. So the ship dates, order dates is here, and then the ship date is here. So can we get the difference between these 2 days? How many days does it take an order from the day it is shipped to us? How long? Maybe you want to see how long it took each item from the day we placed the order to the day the order came to us. So we want to see that. We are going to use date function to do that. All right, great. So if it is normal Excel, we could have been using dates if, dated if, or date if, but in Power Query, we have a different way of doing it. Great, so here I'm going to use custom field or custom column. And then when my custom column loads and comes, I'm going to rather say dates. Okay, number of days. Number of days. Or this difference. Could be anything. Now, when I come to this place, this is where I'm going to now do my calculation. All right. So here, what I'm going to use is a function called, all right, sorry. Thanks so much. I'll go slower. Thanks. All right. So let me repeat, go back again so that in case you didn't understand what I was doing. Yeah. So, but I hope we all know how to clean our data, format our data to get the right data types for each of the data we have in our Excel in Power Query. I hope we know how to do that. Yeah, if you don't know how to do that, you can revert back to our previous videos. That will explain that for us. So now I've created a column called order dates, and then I have another date called ship dates. Now I want to know the difference, how long it took an item from the day we placed the order to the day it was shipped to us. All right. So when we do that, we can now see which of the items took the longest time, highest time to get to our destination. We can see to that. Or we can see which of the items took the least time to get to us. We can even decide to see what is the average time of delivering an item. We can see all these things within our data. Yeah, so that's why I said when you start working with data, the data starts to talk to you, you start to think, what can I see here? What can we do here? We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then, of course, as you keep interacting with the data, it keeps speaking. It has ears, it has mouth, it can talk. Yeah, so the first thing we want to do is to see the difference between the order dates and the shipping dates. So that's what I want to do. And then we can continue from there. Now, and to do that, I've gone to add columns. And from add columns, I've selected custom columns. And when I select the custom column, now I have this dialog box. And then from this dialog box, I can now input my formulas. And so what I want to do here is number of days. Great. And this is where I want to input my formulas. And then the formula I want to use here is a formula known as durations. All right. So I'll start typing duration. Of course, immediately I start typing duration, you see that I have a whole lot of functions relating to duration. So depending on what I want to do, do I need duration.days or duration from text or duration.hours or duration.minutes or duration.seconds, duration.total days, total hours, total minutes. It depends on what exactly do you want to do. You can get them here. So let me start with duration.days. All right. So I want to say duration.days. And of course, once I do that, it brings an option for me. So it's not telling me what I can do. All right. So I open my brackets. When I open my bracket, then I add my square brackets so that it will allow me to select the particular column I am looking for, because I'm looking for a particular column. Now, the duration.days is a function. And so because it is a function, each time you use a function to do anything, please, it should always be in a bracket. You open a bracket, all right, before you start typing other things. So that's why when I said duration.days, I opened a bracket. Now, after opening the brackets, I wouldn't have access to the columns I need. So for me to have access to the columns I need in Excel, we use the square brackets to do that. So once you open a square bracket in Excel, it allows you to select it, especially in Power Query. It will pop up all the columns you have in the data sets you are working with. So if you look at the data set I'm working with, I have all these different columns available for me. Now I'm going to select the kind of data, the one I'm looking for. So I am looking for the one I call ship dates. Let me see. Ship dates. Yeah, ship date is there. So I select ship dates. Now I want ship dates, then I want to subtract it. I want to subtract my ship dates from a different one. And the one I want to subtract it from is the one I've called order dates. Order dates. So I'm saying pick the ship dates, look at the value there, subtract it from the order dates. When you do that, then give me the difference between them. That will give me the days. All right. So when I finish that, then I'll say, okay. Of course, when you finish and then your syntax is okay, you see that it will tell you no syntax error has been detected. If there are errors, it will tell you here that it has some syntax error. And then, of course, if you have an error, this your OK button will not be active. It will be difficult for you to click on it until you resolve that error. Yeah, so I'll say OK, and then I'll go and inspect. Great. Now, if I take a look here at the extreme end of my data, I have the number of days it took for each item from the day we placed the order to the day it came to us or it was shipped. So the first item took 16 days, the next one took 26 days, 19 days, 25 days, 39 days, 42 days. One of them took 50 days. It's possible that if you continue to go down, we may see or have another one that took 2 days. We may go down again. We may even see maybe something below that. Yeah, that we have 0. There was even one that took a 0. Just that day we placed the order, it came to us that day. So it depends on what we are interested on. So I think from here, we can now start to think of different things again. So maybe we don't want to do everything here. We want to now transfer our data to our Excel file where we will be working with it. Or yeah, so let's say we have done what we needed to do here. Just this is the basic thing we want to do here. Remember, there are other options as well. When you go to date functions, you can still use other ones to work with, and then you still be fine. If you say date from and dates duration dot days, and then dates from is similar. So dates, if you date durations dot from the day you specify to the day you are going to stop, it's still going to be the same thing. So it will pick 2 of them and get the difference between them. So in most cases, it's either you are using the duration dot days or duration dot from. Both of them are going to give you the expected outcome. So now I'll go back to home, and then I'm loading my data because I feel I am done with what I need to do there. So loading my data now into my Excel file, and my data finally is here. Great. So now that my data is here finally, I can see now that the data is in this format. And so from here, I can start to do certain things. Let's say I want to see the maximum day. Which of the days among all these days is highest? So to do that, let me increase this a bit so that you see what I'm doing. Great. So to do that, I can see this, and then so here I have maybe it's a max, longest delivery day. To deliver item. Okay. So maybe this is what I want. All right, so if I'm looking at the longest day, the highest day that it took for we to get our item from our data or from this data set, I can simply come here and say max equals max equals max. And then once my max comes here, I pick my max. And my max is saying it's going to accept numbers. Number 1, if I have multiple, then I can pick the next one and pick the next one and pick the next one until I get to where it ends. Now, I don't want to be doing that here one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'll use my tab key to go down and then select everything at a time. Now I'll close my brackets. Great. So when I do that, I can see that the one that took the longest time to deliver took 50 days. So one of the items took 50 days to get to us. Let's see the minimum, the least. What was the least? I think we saw 0. I'm sure it's going to pick 0 for us. Equals, and then I'm going to say mean, and then I'm selecting the same thing again. I want to select everything here again, and then close my brackets. And see, I can see 0. So 0 is the least time it took for an item to. So let's get the average. On averagely, what was the average days it took items to get to us? So let's look at that. We can say equals average. And then we're looking at average of this. And then we're closing this. And it means it took averagely 25 days for every item we ordered to get to us. Now, this one that took 50 days, let's even see the day it happened. I think we can see it, it's possible. Yeah, it's here. So this is the item that took 50 days. And then let's see the item name. And then, okay, the dates, the ship dates was this. So the item was shipped on 1st October, no, 10th of January, 2015. That was the day the item was shipped, 10th October, 2015. And the order was placed on 21st of November, 2014. Let's even see what item was that. Meat. Wouldn't you? I think it will spoil before you get to us. The meat will spoil. Yeah. Okay. Great. And then it was heading to Sub-Saharan Africa. It really took a whole lot of time to get there. Yeah, it took a whole lot of time. Great. All right. So now we can equally look for the one that took the least time, but perhaps it's possible that what we are looking at now is just one out of what if we have more than one instance of this particular data. Maybe it is not only once that an item took 50 days to get to us. How can we do that? We can use count to do that. We can equally come here and use it. So probably when we get to the other side, we're going to use count and see how count works. So I can use, okay, let's start from 0, the one that took the least time. That was 0 time. And then let's see how many items. We have a couple of items. You can see we have a couple of items. Have a couple of items. And then we can, from this, we can look at the channels. Let's look at the channels and say maybe there's something specific about the channels. Okay, the channels was actually still a mixture, not any specific channel. We'll have some offline, some online, some offline, online, and in that order. Then let's look at maybe some of the continents and see which of the continents has more values here. Maybe you can just count through, but of course we can still use count to count. You can still use count to count. So by fairly looking at it, I think we can maybe say Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest occurrence here. Okay, so this is one thing we can do. Remember, we are working with dates. We are working with dates, and we are trying to see how we can exploit the date function and then use it to do certain things, different things in our data. So let me look for that one, 50. I'm looking for 50 as a value. Great. Yes, so 50. Let's see how many items. Okay, you see, a couple of them too, not just once. A couple of items equally to 50 days to deliver. You see that. If we had taken the first instance, we could have been saying, it was just one item that took 50 days. But maybe there are a couple of them, so that could raise some concern. And then let's check the channels here too and see how the channels are behaving. I think most of online data, yeah, a lot of online, a whole lot of online data. Offline, online is there, but I think online, a lot of them didn't deliver early. And then we can equally look at the regions, look at the countries, and all these things. You see, so with dates, it can actually open up to so many things in our data set. When we know how to use the date function, we can have so many things about can ask a lot of questions about our data sets, and then the data will be there to answer us. Yes, so that is how we start working with dates, and then we'll be going from there to see the next thing we have to do when it comes to dates. Great. So let me share my other screen, and then I just wanted to show you from this perspective what we can do. Let me share the other screen and we'll continue from there. We'll still be coming back here to work. So we've seen how to work with year, months, day, e-dates, end of dates. So if you're looking for maybe end of date, but then in particular months, you use e-dates. Work day, we'll be going back to see how we do with workday. Then we have used days or duration of days. Let's see how we work with this workday or weekday. Then from there, we'll look at some of these functions: sum, count, average. We've seen max, we've seen mean. We'll look at sum to look at count, look at average, and then we'll see how they are. We're going to use them in this section. Great. So I'm going back again to my Excel file. And this time, I want us to look at something. Let's say I want to see the days, maybe all the items that were shipped during the working days. Of course, you know the working days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you want to see that, or want to see all the items that were shipped on weekends, how do you do that? Is it going to be possible? Can we see that? Yes, it is possible. In fact, there are so many ways of going around it, but I'll use one instance and then we'll see how it works. So for that, let me add one column here so that I don't intercept the other one. Great. All right, so now what I want to do here is I want to say weekdays. So I want to see the items that were shipped on weekdays, and the other one I want to see items that were shipped on weekends. There are so many ways of going around it. We can use week. We can say equals week. You say I have weekday here. So when I pick my weekday, it's telling me that it needs two things: serial number and return type. Serial number and return type. Now, serial number is the column that contains, or the cell that contains, the value you are interested on, the date I am interested on. That column or that cell is what is making reference to as the serial number. So that's what I'm going to use there. Now, when I go there, I'll go back and say I want to pick my ship dates. Let me pick my ship dates. Good. So I've picked my ship dates, and then I add my comma. Now the next one is my return type. Now the return type, if you do it, it has so many options. Now it depends on how you are counting in your own area or how you want to do the counting. If you want to start counting your days from Sunday, maybe Sunday is 1 all through to Saturday, then Saturday is 7, then it means your return type would be 1. If you want to count your days, that Monday is 1, you're going to start counting Monday as 1, and then in that order, and then Sunday will be 7th, then means your return type would be 2. So please, let's understand what those guys mean so that when we use either of them, you know what they mean. So you don't use one, you're expecting something different, and then it's giving you something else. All right, great. So I'm using 2 for myself. All right, so I want to use 2, and then I want to close my brackets. So let me close my brackets. Let me see, enter. Great. Now it has given me these values. I think I can do something different. Yeah. Okay, let me do something different. I'll come back to this. Let me do something different. Now, let me go back here, and then inside my dates functions, let me change these ones to a different date valve type. I want to use a different date type. So I want to use long dates. And then here too, I want to use long dates so that I'll see those days: Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and all that. Great. So I want to use it this way. And then now, depending on what I want to do, there are simpler way of doing it. There's a longer way of doing it. Now I have my days here, and then I have the months, and then the figure, and then the year. Now, if I come to this place, I can decide something else. I can say something like equals. So let me extract the text. I can use text. And then when I extract the text, the value I want the value to be coming from this place called sheep. And then I want my comma. Now I want my format. The format I want is days. So for me to indicate days, I use 4D to indicate days. So then I close this and then I say enter. Now with this, it will select all the days that I have on my work. So here I have all the days from Saturdays, Tuesdays, and all that. It will select all of them for me. Now, because instead of scrolling this way, let me show you what I can do. I can decide to hide from this column, hide all that to I get to somewhere here. Let me hide all this. And then so that I have a better, smaller place to work with. Say hide. Good. So now I've hidden that, and then now I have better view of what I'm doing with. Even this one too, I can start to hide this too. I'll hide this. Great. So now I have my ship dates and this my column. So this column, remember, I want to call this weekdays. And then that'll be okay for me. Now, if that is what I want to do, now I can simply come here and say, all right, I want to get rid of Saturday and Sunday and say, okay. And I'm going to have access to all the date items or the values, the transactions that was performed on weekdays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday and Sunday wouldn't be part of my data again from here. I won't be able to see them because I said I only needed the one that was done on weekdays. Now, good. If I want the same thing again, maybe I can perform similar thing. Maybe this side, I will say weekends. Maybe weekend. And then here too, I'll say I want to extract the text equals to text. And then the text I want to extract to is the same thing. I want to extract the text here, comma. And then I want to say the text format I want to use. So I've said I want it to be text extract. Where I'm extracting it from is from this place called ship dates. And so that is the value. And then the format I want to use to work with would be, who will help me with the format? Considering what I just did on weekdays, what will I use as my format? Format text. I want someone to help me. Either in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and tell me. Okay, let me repeat that of the weekdays. Let me open it again and show you. Then I'll expect someone to tell me what to do with my weekends. So for the weekday, I said text equals to text, and then the value is ship dates, that is the column ship dates, and then the format I want to use is DDDD, and that gave me that option. And so thank you. Someone has given me an answer, and that is DD. Thanks so much. Yes, so I'll still repeat the same thing again, equals texts. And then I'm using my values again. And the value I'm going to use is the same thing as what I've done before. That is my ship dates. And then I want to use my DD 1, 2, 3, 4 and close it. And then get it done. Then here I can decide to say, all right, I want only the weekends. All right, sorry. I have to restore the other one first. So restore here. restore everything. Good. Now I can decide here to be weekdays and then remove Saturday and Sunday and then come to this. No, this is going to be different. Oh, all right. This is going to be different. Okay. Now, in that case too, I can, of course, when I print the first one, if I print this, maybe if it's a file to be printed, I can print this for the weekdays and then delete this, the values here, and then print the next one for my weekends, which will be where I will select only Saturdays, and then I'll select the rest of the values. Only Saturday will be available for me. And in that case, I'm going to get only data for Saturdays and Sundays. That's one way of doing it. Now, there's another way of doing it too. So the next thing I want to do, next way I want to do it is, I want to actually check. I want to check and see what is happening in my data before I'll make a decision. So in that case, I want to delete everything here. Let me delete here and use here for that purpose. Now, what I want to do is use my weekday function. So I say equals weekday. Now my weekday is going to return, like I said, serial number, which is the dates I'm going to specify. And then it's going to return, have a return type. Good. Now, let me go there and say, sorry, my return type, I want it to be this, ship dates, and then say comma. And then I want my return type to be what is giving me here as options. So if I select second one, that means 2. I want 2 to be my return type. So I want it to start, I want my days to start from Monday. That's what it means. So it means my days are going to start from Monday. I wanted this to in terms of this and not this. Okay. Let me see. Okay, maybe I should use workday. My weekend supposed to do that too. All right, so let me see this. Long day. Yeah, Friday. I know it's going to be that. And then the texts. No, I wanted to fill this. Okay, because of this. Great. All right. So let me fill it again. Tuesday. Is that? No. Okay. Select this, delete everything. Now I'm doing it again because of the previous selection I did. It was giving us. So now my ship dates is going to be, pick my ship dates, and then my format type is going to be 2, and then close this. All right, so it gives me 6272. That means every day is inclusive. Okay, but let me say if I want only weekends, I'll say greater than, I want the one that is greater than 5. So the ones greater than 5 is going to give me. So if I want to compare and see if actually, if that day is weekends or it's not weekends, and I can check from here. Of course, here will give me that instance, that's evidence, or that's confirmation. So if I check for my initial value or dates, ship dates, I see that the first one was Saturday. And then from this place, it is true. The second one is Saturday. It is equally true. The third one is Tuesday, and it is false. That means it's not weekend. Now the fifth next one is Saturday, and it is true. Now let me explain the function that I used there again so that you understand the function I said I used. I said weekday is equals to ship date, comma 2. Remember I said use 1 if your day is going to start from Sunday. and you use 2 if your day is going to start from Monday. So I will start counting my days from Monday. So if I'm start counting from Monday, then Monday is 1, Tuesday 2, Wednesday 3, Thursday 4, Friday is 5. So Saturday is 6 and Sunday is 7. So because of that, that's why I said, go into that place. When you pick the day you are going to use, count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it is greater than 5, then tell me here it is true. That is, if it's greater than 5. If it's not greater than 5, then tell me it is false. That is what is happening here. So each place where it is greater than 5, it is telling me it is true. And that if it is true, it means it is weekend, because greater than 5 means 6, which is weekends, and then 7, which is equally weekend. So 2 of them will be greater than 5. And then that is why it is giving me true each place where it is weekends, and then false wherever it is not weekend. Yeah, so in that case, if I now want again, I can now come back here and say, maybe using if function, I can use if function and said if, equals if, and then I open my bracket, and I can say my logical text that I want to do, my logical test I want to show is, I want to say, if this column called Q2, if Q2 is equals to true, then tell me it is weekend. If it is not equal to true, then tell me it is not a weekend. Maybe that's what I want to do. So I can say if Q2 equals true, if Q2 equals true, comma, now what do I want? I want to tell me it is weekend. I will type weekend. If it is not, I want you to tell me it is not. Sorry, in a quotation 2, not. I can say not weekend or just not. And then just to save me some time, and I close my brackets. Great. So you see, now if I check again, it's now telling me, instead of having true, I can now decide to hide this because I've used it to achieve my goal. So I can equally decide that this, I don't need this again. So I'm going to hide this. And so from here, I can now see the one. So maybe here I can select here and say, I just need the one that are weekdays. Let me see, weekdays, and then print it. So you see, so the ones that are weekdays, when I come to this, my column is telling me they are not weekends. So if I go back again and I select everything, let me say I select only Sundays. If I select everything and I say, just give me Saturdays and Sundays, and then check, we're going to see these are weekends. All right. So for me to save my time, I can equally say select everything and but then leave them here. So when I look at my data now, I have, okay, these are the weekends, and then these are the ones that are not weekends. I can equally compare them and see whether actually it is true. So if I do that, I can comfortably come back here and then reformat my data how I want, maybe as short dates, maybe because of space, short dates. So don't change anything. Remember, it's only going to change the way it is displayed. That's the only thing to change. To not change anything, the value will still be there. Yeah. So I can now reduce this because of space, and then equally reduce this ship dates, make it short dates, and reduce this space. Great. So now I have these values for myself. So from here, I think I can now see that, all right, these are the ship dates, these are the ordering dates, and then these are the days, the number of days it took for each item to get to us or to get to each location. Please remember the locations are different. Some are in different, they are in different continents or regions or different countries as well. And then they've been sold through different means. So depending on further investigation I want to do, you can even drill down to so many things, begin to see a lot of things about the data. You can use counts to start to count how many data, how many of them we are delivered on maybe offline, how many we are delivered online. There's so many things we can do a lot of things using this data or using the date function once we understand the date function. So the date function actually opens up the data for us to be able to dig down into the data and find so many things. Maybe you can look at different quarters, look at them in terms of quarters. You can look at them in terms of years. You can look at them in terms of months. You can look at them in terms of so many things. There are so many ways you can look at the data and then you begin to see what the data is telling you. That is where you can now decide you can be able to see that in a particular year, this is what happened. In a particular month, this is what happened. In a particular quarter, this is what happened. And then you'll be able to make enable the management to be able to make some informed decisions based on what your data has said, not based on assumptions. Yeah. So working with data and then having dates attached to it is very, very important. It helps you to actually see so many things about your data. All right, great. So whilst we are still here, let's look at some other thing. Let's say we want to now summarize all the sales or the profits that each region has made. All right, we want to summarize the profits of each region. So I want us to use the sum ifs, average ifs, and count ifs, and see how we can use them. We can use them in different ways. There are so many ways you can use them. Please don't limit yourself to only the thing I'm going to do here now, because you can do more than that. Yeah. So now here I want to name here as regions. And then I want to name here as total, let me say, total profits or total revenue. Okay, let's use total profit first. Maybe on your own, you can try with total profits and see what happens with that. Great. Now here, we'll be entering some regions here, and then we'll be seeing their total profit here when we use the total, our sum function. So let me say the first region I want to enter is Asia. And then let's say the next one is Europe. The next one is Sub-Saharan Africa. Saharan Africa. Maybe North America. I think North America is there. Yeah. North America. And then other ones too. You can include other ones. But let's start with this. And then let's see. What is the total profits from Asia?
Saharan. The spelling sub-Saharan, not Saharan.
Oh, sorry. Let me see the data first and see what it's saying. Let's see what is the data say. Okay, that's correct. Thank you. Because I want the data to talk, so that I want to see you wouldn't say I said something different. Thank you so much. All right, great. So let's see what we can do. So I want to see what is the sum, total sum of the profits from each of these regions. Great. Now remember the last time we used lookup, and we're able to look up for a particular data, and then we saw, okay, maybe this place you can look up and see the value. This one can look up and see the value, look up and see the value, but it didn't allow us to be able to aggregate. So this time I want to aggregate. All right. So taking Asia as an instance, we want to see all the total values we have there. Europe, what is the total values in that order? So let's see how it's going to work. So in that, doing that, I'll start by my equal sign and say sum if. And of course, once I do my sum if, it comes with a range, some options of what I'm going to use. Remember, I've told you that each time you type your formula and then you use your tab key, it will allow you to see what are the parameters, what are the things your data is expecting, that formula, what is it expecting from you. To enter those things and do them correctly, is going to pull the data for you wherever it is located. Great. So now the first thing is the range. Now the range is looking at that particular item you are interested on. or N, the thing you are looking at, your criteria, what you are looking at, for example, in this case, Asia, where can I find Asia? On what range, what column? I can decide to use maybe a column. I can decide to use a table. If I want to use the entire table, as long as my data, that item I'm looking for is within that data. If I don't know the column where my data is, then I can use the entire column. But if I know the column where my data is, I can just go and pick that specific column. Is that right? So in this case, I'm going to go and pick my region column. This is the column I'm going to pick. So I'll scroll down and then select everything. Great. So this is my range. Now I say comma. The next thing is asking me is the criteria. The criteria is the item itself. What exactly we are looking at. That is the criteria. So remember, in this case, my interest is Asia, but not only Asia anyways. So now in doing that, I can come back here and type that Asia. I can type it. If I type Asia into that place, it will accept. But I don't like doing that because it limits me. It means the next time I'm going to do it for Europe, I have to do it again. Sub-Saharan Africa, I have to do it again. Not time. So in that case, it takes a whole lot of time for me to work. But if I can do it once and replicate it for the rest of them, I think it is going to be better for me. So I prefer doing that way. Yeah. So if I know I'm going to be working with different data or be checking different values, then I can use different things to do. So for example, what I'll do is I'll select a range here. So when I select a range, it means any value I enter in any of these places I've selected will be used as my criteria. For example, the first time it will use Asia, second time it will use Europe, third time it will use Sub-Saharan Africa, in that order. So any data I enter, it will be used. Now, but if I am doing this for my personal analysis, maybe I just want to glance over the data. Maybe I can use one particular cell, just a cell like this, an empty cell, all right? So that when I can be entering the data here, I enter Asia, I'll see it, okay. Europe, I see it, I'll clear, and then I'll enter another one, I'll see it, I'll clear, I enter another one, I'll see it, I'll clear. So in that case, maybe I can be doing that. But if I want it to be a range, I can select a range. So whichever one you want to do, please, it will work. So I want to select a range because I want to work with a range. Now I add my comma. Now the next thing is, what exactly do I want to sum? The value I want to sum. Now I want to sum the total profits. So I'll go back to my data and I'm going to sum my total profits. Sorry. Fortunately for me, I closed them, so I have to open them again. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me do something first. This time it's going to give me an error. Just take this for example. I'm going to come back and correct it. So let me say here. Great. Okay, and then I'll close this. Yeah, so it's 0 for now. Don't worry about that. I'm going to correct it. Just want to open my data where it is. So I'm trying to open those ones I've closed. So that's what I'm opening now. Remember, I closed some places. And that is where my data is. So I have to open them up. Great. Good. All right, so my data is back now. And then I can now go back. I know my total profit is on column N. All right, so I can go back now and then formally include that here. So I'm removing the last parts because I'll be using that column I have interest on. That is this column. Then I go down, come up to select everything, and then close my brackets. Great, so I have some extra, let me see. It says, no, okay. All right, let me start again. Please, I'm starting afresh again so that I'll be able to include everything. Great. So I'm going back. I want to select my regions. My region will be the first to select. Select everything, then add my comma. Please, it's always important if you know you'll be selecting from down up or up down. Once you select, add your comma so that you don't lose everything. If you don't add a comma and you want to go and see what you've selected before adding your comma, you lose them. When you click another place, you're going to lose what you've selected. So it's always good once you select, add your comma so that what you selected will be retained for you whilst you navigate. All right, so that is why once I select, I'll say then comma. So I've added my comma and then I'm selecting the criteria now, and then I add my comma again. And then I'm going to select now my profits. So go down and then come up. Shift this guy. Great. So now you see, when I've done that now, I have these values. So it means the total profits for Asia is this. This is the total profit for Europe. This is the total profit for Sub-Saharan Africa. And then in that, so if I want to include another region that is not here, I can simply go there. Let me say this, it's not parts. I can copy Middle East and then come and add it to my data. Add it to my data. And then use my autofill to fill it up. So remember, my autofill will fill it up when I double click on it. So I'm having some spin. All right, so yeah, I understand. I'm supposed to use the last one to do it. Okay, let me undo this. Great, so I use this to fill it up. My machine is a bit hanging, so formula is here. Okay. Fill in without formatting. Flash fill. All right, so let me do it again. That's no problem for me, but it's supposed to work though. All right, so I'm working on it again and I'm saying equals sum if. I think this will give us a better view, probably those who couldn't follow when I did it the first time. So now let me do something different to show you that if you do the same thing, you wouldn't have problem. Let's say at this point, instead of selecting only column A, I want to select more than column A. So I want to select maybe from here and then this way and go down. So I didn't select everything. I've selected only column A and column B. That is what I've selected. I wouldn't have problem. Remember I said the range, you are looking for where your data is located. So if you don't know exactly where your data is located, you can select the entire table. It wouldn't be a problem. But if you know exactly where your data is, then you can select just that column. So I'm trying to use this as an example so that you see that we can actually work with that and then we wouldn't have problem at all. So that is for that. Then selecting my range, because I selected downstairs. Now I select my range from here. Great. Now after selecting my range, now the next is I select my, sorry, that was my range, my criteria. Now my range, my sum range is this. I go down here and I'll select everything to top and then reduce one and close my brackets. Great. So now I have all my data here for me summed. Each region with its total value. So here I can select the whole thing and then maybe format it as a table, add my borders or borders. And then maybe if I like, I can decide to make this, bring it to the center and bold it. And then equally bold this as well. Yeah, so then maybe this time I can reduce their sizes to indicate some difference from what I've done to the rest of them. Yeah, so maybe something like this. If I want to, I can add some color, just change differences to show what data is saying. Sure, so then that is for sum, total sum, all right? Now, if I want to do average, let's say I'm interested in average, I can remove this. Great, so I want to do average, but with the same data. So this time I'm going to copy this data and I want to paste it here. Please, if you have questions, do ask. Please, if you don't understand what I'm doing, please feel free to ask. This, I'm going to get rid of them. I don't need them again. Then this is not total average. I'm using a average profits. Average profits. Yeah. Great. So I want to check for the average profits of each region as well. And then in that case, I'm equally going to use if. I'm going to see equals average if. C is equally there. Average if. And then I'm equally expected to select three criteria, three parameters, range, criteria, average range. Right. So I can go back there again and then say, what I'm looking for is this. Let me go down and select everything going up. Great. Now, I've done that, so I add my comma, then my criteria is what I have here already. I'm going to select them again here. Great. And then the next is my average range. Maybe I want to get the average for each. Let me say, I don't want to use the profit this time. I want to use their revenues. I want to use their revenues. So I want to use the revenues. I want to use the revenue. And then I close my work. Close it. Great. And I'm back again. So this is the average revenue from each of these regions. This is the average revenue from each of these regions. And the other one is the total profits from each of that regions. All right. I can do counts. I can count. Okay, let's say we want to count something. All right, great. So let me see. Let's see how count will go. I want to see, okay, let me paste something and see if it's still holding it. Okay, I'm not holding it again. Let me copy this. Copy this. And I want to paste it here. Great. This time, I want to count something different. Great, so let's count. Oh, I would have count employees, but we don't have employees here. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can count. Let me see if it will be possible to count the countries. Is my spelling correct? Country in each region. Let's see if we can count that. See if it's going to be possible. Equals count if. I want to count if. And then what I want to count is I have two parameters here now. I have range and I have criteria. All right. Range and criteria. Wow. Okay. Now, what I want to count is, okay. Let me see. range is where my data is, and that will be here. So I want to count this. Okay, so let me go this way, go down, and then I select from here to this. Great, and see if I'm going to go this way, comma, and then my range. Okay, it's just going to count the regions for me. It's going to count the regions, to count the regions alone. And then because I'm counting this, so it's going to count the regions. And then close this. So it's counting the regions. This is regions and not country. So it will count. Great. Yeah, the other one will do it for us. Count regions. So this is Asia appeared this number of time in our data sets. Europe appeared this number of time in our data sets. So this is a summary of what is happening in our data sets. Actually, we can actually count based on what I was trying to do, but it's going to take us a further step, some step further before we'll be able to do that. When we get to, if we are using a Power BI, it would have been easier for us. When we get to Power Query, could have used Power Query. Yeah, Power Query would have done that too. Count our regions. So maybe you try that and see what is going to happen. I want to see each region, how many countries do we have? So regions, maybe you have on the country size, number of countries. Yeah, it will be possible. I think the last time we did it, we saw it when we did count. So you can count. You can pick the country with pivot table. If you pick the country, the regions, and drop it in your rows, and then pick countries and drop it in your value, it's going to count them. So it will count them for you. Holding the regions, it will be counting the countries in each region for you. So pivot table is going to do that faster for us. All right, so great. Now, so this is how we can use this. We've seen sum. We started with sum. We've seen how to sum this. So we've seen each region. What is their total profits? This is total profits from these regions. And then we've seen the average revenue. This is average revenue, please, not average profits. Average revenue from each regions. And then we've equally tried counting how many times each region occurred in our data set. Yeah, so that shows you that you can do a whole lot of things when it comes to this data. There's so many things you can see. So many things. You can even decide to count the number of data that was, number of products that was sold offline and how many was sold online. You can count that quickly. It's possible. So let's do that. Maybe as the last thing we're going to do on this phase, and then we'll look at the next thing for us to do. So let's say, as part of this, let's say online and offline. Okay, let's say sales channels. Sales channels. And then number counts. Okay, number of times. Number of times. Great. So now this is for offline. And then the next one is for online. Great. So for offline, remember, we can still use the same thing, equals count if, count if range we are interested on is this column called online and offline channels. And so we're interested on that place. And then we're saying pick that place as our range. And for our columns, please do use what we specified for you here in terms of this, and then close it for us and get us our answer. So you see, our sales channels for online sales, we had 5,061 times or items or how many times we sold. So we had transactions, total transaction of 5,601. And for offline transactions, we had 4,943. So we can even dig down and say, among these, which of the items did we sell more in the online and offline mode? We can look at all these things. So there are so many things we can look at as long as our data is concerned. Great. But for now, that is for the functions. So seeing at the date function, there are so many things we can do. Please do explore the Excel file I gave you last time, the link I gave you last time. You can use the explore and see a whole lot of things when it comes to dates, dealing with dates. You can have a whole lot of functions there, formulas there with examples of how to work on them. They are there. Great. So now the next thing I want us to look at today is, aside this, we can equally look at another thing. Please, if you have questions, please do feel free to ask. I'll be waiting for your questions to answer them as we continue. Now, another thing is conditional formatting. Conditional formatting. This is what we're supposed to do. Our next program, we're supposed to be looking at conditional formatting. And with conditional formatting, we are actually saying, aside what we are doing, can we have, we still the same our data, not changing anything, having the whole data, all right? Can we do something a bit different? All right, for using the equal sign if, after choosing criteria, does it work as same as if you select the whole column just for range instead of pick one? Select the same range and then scroll down to get total. If I understand you, let me try to let me read the question again. It says, using the sum if, after choosing the criteria, which is what you are looking for, all right, does it work as same if you select the whole column just for range instead of picking one? Okay, yes. So instead of, okay, let me do that and say, maybe that's what you're trying to say. Please, before I come back to this, let me try and see if I can answer this. Maybe that's what she meant. Then that'll be great. Now, if what I'm trying to say, what you meant is, so for example, this is our total sum. Great. So let me bring up my formula. Please, I hope you can see my formula. Now, sum if, then the range is where I am picking my data from, all right? The column that contains my data, or the table that contains my data. It could be a whole table. It could be some parts or portion of the table, all right? Now, I'll select it. Now, the criteria, I said the criteria could be either an item that you're looking for. You can type the name. Maybe if the name is Asia, you can use double quotation to type the name Asia inside that place, all right? Now, when you type Asia inside that place, it will look for it. And then the sum range. The sum range should always be a numeric value, a numeric column that you want to sum, all right? It should always be a numeric value that you want to sum. The same thing with average. Average range will always be a numeric value that you want to find the average of, because it's going to add them together, all right? So you can't add text. You can't say region plus region plus region. No, it won't do that. It will always be saying, I've picked region called Asia here. The total value what I'm going to add must always be numeric values. So it will go to that column that you want to add, and then you pick in its value wherever it is region. Now, you are asking if the range, let me pick your question again. We are asking, okay, sorry, I meant criteria. All right, so yeah, the criteria can be a range. So of course, you cannot use the column. You can't use that same column, all right, where your criteria is. No, you can't use that column as a criteria. No, you have to use either a name that you are looking for. So for example, in this our case, let me do something different. Let me say something different. Great. So let me do something different. So now I want to use an item in our data here. Let me use an item because we have items, the items to sell. So let's get to that place and I'll show you something different. So yeah, no, here we have items, and then item type, we have office supplies, we have beverages, we have this. So I want to sum the total sale or total revenue we've made from vegetables. All right. So now in this case, my criteria is vegetable. I can't select the whole column here as my criteria. No, it will not work because that is what I'm going to use as my range. My range will be coming from that place. So my range and my criteria will not contain the same number of columns. No. All right, but I can use something different. What I mean by something different is I can decide to use that particular name, or I can use a something. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by I can use something different. So let's go and then let's do some other place. So here I want to use here. All right, so and I want to see equals sum if at this point, I want to use a range, and the range I'm going to use is this range called sales type. Sales type, all right? So sales type, I'm going down this way, and then I'm selecting everything, all right? Now to unselect the one on top, you see, my sales type is equally selected. I don't want to be part, so I hold down my shift key and use my arrow down, all right? It will deselect that particular one. Great. Now I add comma. Now the next thing is my criteria. I can add vegetables here. All right. I can just say open brackets and then start to type vegetable. It will pick. It won't have any problem. Vegetables. But do make sure that you type exactly what you have. So if you have vegetables, make sure that you've typed vegetables as well. If you type it wrong, it will not pick. All right. Now the next thing is, what do I want to sum? Each time I see vegetable, what do I want to sum? That is the next thing. That is the sum range. So depending on what I want to sum, I can now come back here. Maybe I want to sum the total sales, total units sold. What is the total units sold of vegetable? Maybe I want to sum what is the total revenue, or what is the total cost, or what is the total profits. So let's even sum the total units sold. Let's say the total units sold of vegetable. Go down, select everything again, and then deselect this guy. Great. So I've done that, and then I say close my bracket. And then let me go down and see if I have an answer. Well, I have 0 as an answer. Okay, it didn't pick it. It didn't pick the last item I specified. My range, my sum range. It didn't pick my sum range. Sum range, okay, which is total units sold. Total units sold. Great. So let me see. Oh, what's the problem? So total units sold. total units sold. Please just a minute, okay? Total units sold. Total units sold. Great. So let me pick it this way. And then great. So you see, now I have my value here. All right. So this is the total unit. So here I can now add vegetable. You see, this is not descriptive. I don't know what I have added. So I have to come back here again and start typing vegetable. You see that? So that I'll be able to know that, okay, total units sold of vegetable. I don't even know what is this. Is it total units sold or the profits or the what exactly am I doing? So I have to equally add a description to tell me what it is. So that's why you should always have a header. I say this is total profit. So for this case, I can shift this. I can shift this. Let me pick it and shift this a bit here. Great. And then add my vegetables here. I can equally shift to the other one too. I can shift this. Great. Shift this, then I can say items or item type, items. I think items is okay. Then total sales or total units. Total units or units sold. Yeah. So total units sold. And then in this case, so total units sold of this is this, and I'm fine. Now, the rest of the items, I can equally add them here. All right. But it means each time I want to do this, I have to always come and change. Assuming I want to do for meats, I have to write the same formula again. And then instead of using vegetable as my criteria, I'll use meats. If I want to do for food and drinks, I have to do the same thing again. If I want to do for beverages, I have to do for the same thing again. That's a whole lot of work. So why not do it simpler by saying equals, that's what I was doing. And I say equals sum. If then I select that column, let me see the column here again. Okay, it has already scripted it. So unit sold, select my unit sold, then add my comma. Now come back. Sorry, my item sold, sorry. This should be rather be item sold. This should be items sold because my range should be the items, all right? And not the units. The unit is what I want to add together. So the items itself, beverages, come down here, select everything, then comma, all right? Now, after adding my comma, then I go there and select an empty place so that it will be easier for me. So I'm selecting empty place, empty, there's nothing there. So I add comma, then I'll go and select the place I want it to sum for me. And this time, I want it to sum unit sold. So let me say unit sold and then close my brackets. Now, if when I do this, it's going to be 0 because it doesn't have any value there, all right? So it's now late for me to start entering value there. So if I say meat, if I spell it right, it will calculate it for me. Probably I've made some mistake. And there's no E. Okay, there's no S. So let me pick another one too, so that when I correct that one, you equally see the next one. Food, what food? So there's no E, there's no S in my meat. That's why I had error. I didn't get any value when I did it. So remove the S. And then I have my value. Now, if I don't want to calculate for meats, I want to calculate for food, the other one, the one I copied, you see that. So, however, whichever value I want to calculate, I can always alterate it here. So in this case, I don't need to start entering the formula again before I'll get my answer. My answer comes as soon as I enter the value there. So that is how we can work with the sum ifs. So the sum if, the criteria will always be the item you are looking for, or the places you want to be entering the values or the items you'll be looking for. That is what you use as your criteria. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Now, as I was saying, conditional formatting. With conditional formatting, we are actually looking at trying to, instead of summarizing the whole thing in a smaller place, we want to look at the whole data. Once we are having access to our data sets, we are seeing different things that our data is telling us, all right? So within the same data, we are seeing that maybe want to using conditional statements to perform different tasks on our tests. All right, you're welcome. Thanks for understanding. Great. So conditional formatting makes it easy to highlight certain values and make particular cells easy to identify. So if you want in your data, you want some places to be easy for people to identify, the management to see that, okay, this is within the data, then you're going to be using conditional formatting. All right. This will change the appearance of that cell or the range of cells you selected based on a condition. All right. So you can use conditional formatting to highlight cells that contains values that meet certain conditions or criteria. So depending on the conditions we are going to specify, we can decide to change the color of either the text or the cell that contains that value, all right, that meets our condition. That's what conditional formatting is all about. And we'll have different types of conditional formatting. We'll have different types, all right? Okay, so we'll have background color shading. That is one type. We'll have for color shading, the text itself. So the cell, the first one is the background, the cell itself. We can change the background of that cell. Second one, we can change the color of the text in that cell. Third, we can use data bars. Fourth, we can use icons. And then fifth, we can use values. All right, so let's see how quickly how they work. Let's see how that one goes. And then we'll continue from there. Great. So I'm sharing my screen again. Great. Please, if you have any question, please do raise. Let me know so that I can respond to your question whilst we are going forward. All right. So now conditional formatting is on our home tab, and then you have stars group. That is where you have conditional formatting. And when you open it, you're going to see the whole different types of conditional formatting. You have highlight cells or cells rules. You have highlight top, bottom rules. Then you have data bars, and then you have color scales, and then you have icon sets. So you can use any of these to actually format your data. Now, in this case, you are looking at the data and you are saying any data that meets this condition, you're going to specify the condition should have this color. This color should be used on it, or this should be happening to it. That is what I'm trying to say. So that is what conditional formatting in short is all about. I hope you're going to practice with that when you finish. So let's do briefly. Now, when you go to highlight cells based on certain rules, one of the rules here is highlight cells greater than the value we will specify. If you want to specify some value, you can specify the value here. You can say sales less than the value we specify. You can say highlight sales between the values we specify. Highlight sales equal to what we're going to specify. Highlight sales that contains text or text that contains the value, a date occurring, duplicate values. In fact, you can use any of these things. You can use any of them. All right, great. Now, but before you start using, please do remember you have to select a particular column you'll be interested on. All right, because if you're saying highlights, what do you want to highlight? What column are you interested on? You have to select that column. All right, so let's say we are selecting total revenue. I want to select total revenue. All right, and then having selected total revenue, I want to say, let me go back. All right, I want to say highlights greater than, highlight the sales that are greater than. Now it's giving me some values here. Then the value is giving me is about 3,300,000 and something. So let's say I'm interested on the column that's up to 5 million. So I want to say 5 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Great. Now scroll back again. So this is the column I've highlighted, and I'm saying highlights any cell in this column that is greater than 5 million. If it is 5 million, it will not select it because I said greater. If it is less than 5 million, it will not select it. So it will select from 5 million and above. So from 5 million counting up, that is what it's going to select. Anything 5 million counting down will not be part. Great. Now I can check the text. It says, this is where I'll select the cells, and then width will not tell me the kind of color I want. So if I want both the cell and the text itself to have colors, then I'll choose between the first and the fourth one. The first and third one. The first one say light red filled with dark text. So light red fill with dark red text. That's what we have there. Second one says yellow fill with dark yellow text. Third one says green field with dark green text. Maybe that's what I want. You see, when I select it, color has changed. And then I'll say, okay. Now it's going to select it all the way wherever I have that condition met within my data set. Anywhere I have that condition met, it will select it for me. All right. But the problem here is that each time you want to see the things, then you have to scroll down. You have to always scroll down before you be able to see all the places where it has affected. But if you have a small data set, very handy data set that is not too large, too big, then you can maybe use conditional formatting to work on them. It will be easy, probably just in a glance to see the whole thing. If you know that in a glance, you can summarize the whole data in a glance, then it will be good for you to use conditional formatting to work. But if your data set is too large, and you're going to use conditional formatting to work, it will worry you because you have to always be scrolling down, trying to see the rest of the data wherever they are. Yeah. So then we'll have the next one there to top 10. So if you say top 10 items in my data set, you can actually see that what is the top 10 items, what is the top 5 items. Let's say I want to see the top 5 items. So it's equally going to give them some colors. Let me see the colors giving them again. Let me change the color. Top 5 items. 5. Let's give it yeah, dark red. I think top 5 seems to be big. All right, yeah. So let me, dark red is okay. Let me see. Seems not to be seeing any value here. I've not gotten to where they are. Okay, let me select my columns again. Let me sure it's selected. Because it seems I didn't select it at this point. Top 5. Top 5. And I want to use this. It's actually selected, but it means that means where it is very far away. Okay, yeah, I think I can see one. So let me say top 2. Still very far away. Top 2, top 3, yeah. Top 3. So it doesn't have the ability to filter just where that event is. That is the problem with conditional formatting. In as much as it's going to work and give you what you want, it doesn't actually just in a glance pick what you want for you to see. But if your data is small, very small and handy, just like I said, you can use conditional formatting to work. It will work, it will do what you want it to do. But if you're working with a very large data set, then conditional formatting may not be the best option for you to work with. You can use any of those functions you are used to work to do your work, and then you'll be fine. Please, this is delaying our time. It's not really giving me what I need, but it's going to work. It's working. So now the next one is if I want to use scarce, maybe that will help. Yeah, so I have scarce here. You can use any of these colors, or you can use icons maybe to describe what you want, or you can use bars. You have bars here to describe what you want. So let's use the color scarce, and then I will explain the color scarce, what they are. I'll open it and then we'll explain how they are formed. All right, so now here is an example of a color scale. How can we explain this? We have an arrow left, we have an arrow down, 2 arrows down, and then we have 1 arrow up, and then we have another arrow down, all these ones, and then have arrow down, have arrow up. So this case, how do we explain them? How are we going to explain it so that someone will understand, or management will understand that this is what your data mean? Okay, so let's see. We'll try and then explain them. So I'll go to manage rules. And then when I come to manage rules, my data will be there because that is the last thing I just used. So fortunately, I can't equally increase this so that you can see clearly what I have here. All right. Okay, so I'm trying to open the function that we've just used now so that you'll understand what is happening there. And then for us to open it, the way you do it is first you come back to conditional formatting. If you have applied any conditional formatting, then you scroll down to the last option, that is manage rules. When you click on manage rules, it will open up selecting the conditional, the format you have used. That is what will be selected here. All right. Now, when you come here, you see you have options: new rule, edit rule, delete rule. New rule means you want to create your own rule. You can do that. Edit rule means you want to edit the one you have used, you've applied. And then delete means I want to delete the one I've applied. So let's use edit rule because we want to see the components, how they are being used. So I've clicked on it and it has opened. Now, if you watch, we have select a rule type. That's what they selected. So the rule type selected is format all cells based on their values. So based on the values of these cells, that is what is going to be formatted by. Now have format all cells based on their values. So we're using icons, all right? So the format style is icon sets. We're using icons. If you open there, you have different style. You have 2 color scale, you have 3 color scale, you have data bar. So, but this time we're using color scales. All right. Now, after that, you said display each icon according to these rules. So now these are the rules. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 icons there. So we're looking at the rules. Now the first one said use green when the value is equal to or greater than or equal to 80%. 80%, all right? So if it is greater than or equal to 80%, then you use green. So anywhere you see green, it means the value there is greater than or equal to 80%. Now it says use this one, orange, but then tweeted. Use it when the value is less than 80 and the value is greater than or equal to 60. So from 60 to 80, we use this. Remember, is in percentage. Now, the next one says use it when it is less than 60 and greater than or equal to 40. So it is less than 60 and is greater than or equal to 40. Use it. When it is less than 40 and greater than or equal to 20, then use this. And red says, pointing down says, use it when it is less than 20%. So if the value is less than 20%, then it's going to use red. So anywhere you see red pointing down, it means the value there is less than 20%. All right, so that's what's happening here. You can open it and change the icon. You have other icons here. You can use any icon of your choice. All right, we are not limited to this particular icon they've used. Great. Now, even here, you can equally change the option. It says greater than or equal. When it is greater than or equal, you can equally say when it is greater than 80. That means you are saying minus 80. So from 81 upwards. All right, that is greater than 80. So, but if you want to include 80, then you have to say greater than or equal to 80. Then it means 80 is part. Now the type is equally here. You can change the type. If you don't want to use percentage, you can use number, you can use formula, you can use percentile. So depending on what you want to use, you can actually use. So that is where the settings are. So if you have applied any conditional formatting, you can always come here and see how they are. And so if you want to create your own, it's simple. You click on new rule. When you click on new rule, then you select how you want to format it. Is it based on their values? Is it based on cells that contains? Is it based on top, bottom? Any of the rules that you want to use, you choose your rule, then you choose your style. Remember, the format cells based on their values. You can decide whether to use 2-scale color, 3-scale color, bar, or icons. You can decide what to use, maybe bars, and then you can decide again and say, so when you choose bar, you see it has changed. It's now saying minimum and maximum. So you select automatically. If you don't want automatically, you can select from lowest value, numbers, percentile, percent value, any of these things, you can use them to create. So you come here, you choose, okay, let's say based on percentage, let's use percentage, and then let's say the value here should be, let's say 50, and then let's say maximum is should equally be percents, and then yeah, so so that should be 100, value should be, maximum value should be 100. Yeah, okay. Then let's say bar colors, this is the bar colors. Want this to be red, and then border color, want the border color solid, sure. So then want the color to here to be what's color? Doesn't want to open up. Okay, solid border, and then want it to be maybe green, and then negative direction, so bar direction, contests, yes. So let's see from contests, and then preview, that's the preview. And then when you finish, you say okay. And then when you say okay, please, it will not apply. You have to apply it before it applies. So maybe if that's what I want to use now, I can use it and say apply. Well, and then let's use this and then apply it. So you see, I've applied it here, and that is why it is here. So wherever it is 100%, it's going to apply. 50% and above to 100%, it will apply. So, but if it is below 50% and down, it will not apply. All right. So we can create our own if you want to create. If you don't want to create, you want to use the one that is there, you can use any of the ones that we have here. All right, great. So let me entertain your questions now, please. You can ask your questions now. before we conclude for today, please, if you have questions, do feel free to ask your questions, please. Do you have any question? You can type your question. You can equally unmute yourself and ask. Is there any question, please? Hello?
No, I'm all good.
No questions? All right. If we don't have questions, then thank you for your time today. I will upload the PowerPoints for us so that we'll be able to have access to it. And then do feel free to use the materials to learn. And then I've equally included some links for us to use in addition to what you already have. In case you need to understand the conditional formatting better, you have some links there to use, and then you can use it to learn. There's a part 2 we couldn't get there. What if analysis? We'll be doing that from next week. A link is equally there. You can use it to learn and then get yourself used to them. Thank you so much for your attendance today. And then let's meet next week. Do have a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.